So the first question that you might be asking yourself, or in fact that others might be asking you if you've told them that you're applying for degrees in liberal arts, is what is liberal arts? Now, the first thing to really be aware of is that obviously it's not a subject in the way that kind of English or sociology or economics is. Instead, it's an approach to learning. Now, because of this, liberal arts courses differ hugely from university, from department to department. So it is worth really taking the time to dig down and find out about the philosophy and the teaching and the organisation of different degree programmes so that you can find one that suits you. Unlike many liberal arts programmes, liberal arts at Warwick isn't a generalist pick and mix kind of degree where you just pick different random modules from across the university without paying any attention to how your learning might all connect together. Our programme is much more focused and much more structured than that. So yes, our students do have the opportunity to take up to 50% of their modules in different departments from all around the university, but also at the same time, our programme is designed very specifically to train students in interdisciplinary learning and research. So what is interdisciplinary learning? Well, what this means to us is that we believe that it's not always helpful to divide learning up into separate subject categories. Now, partly this is because the lines aren't always clear. It's difficult to say, for example, where sociology stops being sociology and starts being history. But it's also because we believe really passionately that our understanding and our knowledge is much richer, much deeper when we draw on ideas and methodologies from all different kinds of branches of knowledge. So, for example, I teach an interdisciplinary module on consumption, which both Emily and Izzy have taken or are taking, and this draws on ideas from sociology, from cultural studies, from literary studies, film studies, sustainability, economics, marketing and psychology. So this is what we mean when we say that liberal arts at Warwick is an approach. It's a process, not a discipline. And we teach students how to analyse and combine a whole range of sources, information and ideas in a way that's useful for them for the particular module that they're studying or for their particular assessment needs. And this doesn't limit them to any particular kind of disciplinary perspective. So this means that students take an active role in their own learning, and it enables them to make really original interventions in problems. And these problems might be academic problems or they might be contemporary problems. This kind of learning philosophy really depends on a few key principles. So the first is the long view, and this is the idea that you cannot possibly understand how we got to the point where we're at, the present, until you understand the history of that and how we got there. So, for example, you cannot understand racial inequality in Britain until we begin to understand the evolution of ideas about race and how we began to categorise people in that way, and particularly how this has been described and applied in the British historical context. The second key principle is the broad view. So this is basically the idea that we can't solve problems with only one set of knowledge. So let's take climate change for an example. We can't solve this only using the knowledge of environmental scientists, as important as these people obviously are to this topic. We also need to draw on people who work in psychology, so the psychology of consumers perhaps. We need innovators, we need people who understand policy, we need economists, I could go on. This connects to our third key principle, and this is to do with collaboration. So this is the idea that the sum of our collective learning is greater than the individual parts. So we set loads of tasks where students go away and they do their own individual research, and then they come back to class and they work in groups to combine their different sets of knowledge and to teach each other really in order to produce a response. So our students we know have taken modules from all across the university, and they're developing expertise in different kinds of areas. And so they then get the opportunity to bring this back into the classroom and to use it together collectively. Finally, we do all of this in order to make an intervention. So we explore how ideas about different human experiences have evolved, how they're circulated in different contexts. So whether this is scientific discourse, ideas kind of move from that through to political discourse, and then we see it moving through again into cultural expressions like literature or TV programmes. And we study this kind of circulation of ideas in order to better understand and critique the present, the time that we're living in now, and also so that we can make responses or interventions that will actively shape the future. And this whole kind of teaching and learning philosophy, this translates to a model of teaching and learning, which we call problem-based learning. And in this kind of model of teaching and learning, students examine problems from a whole variety of different kind of perspectives, disciplinary perspectives. They conduct independent research to then share ideas and work together to produce a response. So the problems that we consider, you can basically think about them as research questions, big questions, and these might be questions that concern our current society. So for example, they might be problems to do with sustainability or to do with equity or social justice. Or they might be academic problems, and these are problems that concern what we think and how we think about a particular topic, whether this is, I don't know, 18th century German culture, or whether it's, I don't know, the philosophy of mathematics. And so in different ways, all of our liberal arts modules ask you to collaboratively identify and then explore a whole range of problems from different perspectives. We ask you to go out, do your own research. We teach you how to do all this so that you know how to do your own independent research, and then you work together to produce a response. So our course really does give you the freedom and the flexibility to study a whole wide range of modules, but it also gives you the strong foundation that you need to approach different kinds of knowledge and then go out and participate in all different kinds of classrooms across the university with confidence. So you're trained how to approach any kind of information from a critical and analytical perspective and to draw out the expertise from others in the room. So that's really important when you go into different classes, is to be able to learn from your peers who are just doing that one subject. Crucially, though we don't believe in disciplinary boundaries, what we do believe is that you should come out of your degree with a specialism. We think that you should come out of your degree having kind of expert knowledge in one area. So depth is important as well as breadth. So what we do is we help our students to curate their own degree depending on their academic and personal interests, and they choose modules from all around the university that speak to each other in different ways. The way that we do this is through our pathways structure. So this is something pretty unique to our programme. So students build their own degree around a pathway. And the way to think about a pathway is that it's just an area of interest or expertise. Now, you don't have to know what this will be before you start the degree, but over your first year and into your second year, you begin to identify the focus of your degree. And this will help you to build up kind of both breadth of knowledge and an expertise in one particular area. We have two different options for pathways. The first, and this is what I would say 2/3 of our students take, is to take a specialist interest pathway. So this means that you find an area or a topic that you wish to pursue further, and then you take modules from different departments which somehow speak to that theme. So I've given you some examples there on the slide. These are just examples. There are tons of others that you could choose from. And these are just really broad umbrella topics. So you can interpret these pathways in different ways. So for example, taking social justice, one student might be really interested in applied theory and practice, and they might take modules primarily from the sociology department and from politics and international relations. Whereas another student might be much more interested in kind of creative expressions and culture. So they might choose to take, say, a module on protest poetry from English literature and a module on gender on the screen from film and TV. You also can refine these general topics much kind of closer, more narrow. So to give you a couple of examples from last year's cohort, one student who was interested in sustainability devised a pathway that was to do with corporate sustainability. So that student took modules mainly from global sustainable development, from business and from marketing, whereas another student was much more interested in kind of sociological and cultural ideas. So she defined her pathway as critical socio-political ecologies, and she kind of took modules from sociology, from politics, from global sustainable development, and she ended up writing a dissertation on eco-art and activism in different countries in the Middle East. So if none of these pathways interest you, that's fine as well. You are very welcome and encouraged to devise your own, and students do every year. The other option, if you know that you have a strong interest in one particular discipline, but you don't want to commit yourself to studying it 100% of the time for the next 3 years, well, you could do a disciplinary interest pathway. So this is where you would take half of your modules with us and the other half with the other department. So this is a bit like a joint degree programme, but we train you really specifically to analyse that subject area in a problem-based way. And one of our most popular disciplinary interest pathway is economics. So a lot of students are really interested in that discipline, but they also want to study more perspectives from the humanities and social sciences as well over the course of their degree. You have the ability to to choose from a huge range of optional modules across the university, and we also offer a whole range of bespoke interdisciplinary optional modules in the liberal arts departments, which you can choose if you want to. So I teach one on utopias, for example. And on this slide here, you can see what this looks like in terms of the structure of your degree. So in the first year, you only study 25% of your modules out of liberal arts, but by the final year, you study 75% of them. And this is because in the first year, we want to give you the support and the skills that you need in order to be able to succeed in the second and the third year when you go out more extensively into these other departments. As your degree progresses, you just get more and more freedom to pursue the topics and the kind of areas of study that really interest you. And in fact, in the final year, the only module that you have to do in liberal arts is your year-long dissertation or research project, which is the real capstone of your degree and helps to round off your pathway with studying something that you're interested in. Maybe actually I'll go back to that slide. Perhaps at this point, Emily, you could kind of jump in. So both Emily and Izzy are following pathways in cultural identity. Maybe Emily, you could explain how you've interpreted that and maybe talk about one of the modules briefly that you've taken.
Yes, so broadly speaking, my pathway would be culture and identity, but more specifically, I'm kind of looking at the globalization of the pop music industry and its impacts on communication interculturally. So I've been taking some modules in linguistics and beginners languages like Italian and Japanese. And I also took a module last year on the science of music, so that gave me a kind of different perspective on like the music, the way that music theory operates. And then consumption studies, which was a core module in second year, really tied well into the consumer aspect of popular music. So I feel like I've been taking a lot of modules from very different areas to then link them together to what I'm really interested in.
Thank you so much. So one thing that we're really proud of in our liberal arts programme is our community and our support. We really do pride ourselves on being a community that's kind, a community that's friendly, a community where we know our students and where they know each other. We have high expectations of all of them and we support them all to achieve the best that they're capable of. We do a lot of work in the department around equity issues, and we know that a lot of the problems that we see in society to do with various kinds of inequality can be replicated within higher education systems, and we commit fully to tackling these head on, to educating ourselves, and to make sure that we continue to provide an education which is both, well, fair, accessible and equitable for all of our students. There are loads of different ways that we can build the sense of community and that we support our students. On the slide are just a few of them. One thing that's, I think, really crucial to our offering is that we have a departmental base and facilities. So what we mean by this is that as liberal arts tutors, we are all employed purely as liberal arts tutors. We're not kind of splitting our time between, say, the School of English or the School of Economics and Liberal Arts. We don't just teach an odd module or two. We're dedicated experts in interdisciplinary learning and dedicated experts in liberal education. We also have a physical home, so we have a department, buildings, we have offices, we have a common room that in non-COVID times students can use for socialising and for study. And this really means that students in liberal arts, even though they're going out to all these different departments to take their modules, they have an academic home and they feel like they have a community that they belong to. We provide support through staffing in different ways. Every student has an academic personal tutor who stays with them for most of their way through university and helps to answer any problems that they might have to do with academic studies and helps them to navigate different kind of support that's available. We have a director of student experience who has like specific time in his workload just to meet with students, find out how people are doing, help solve any problems, support any student initiatives, all that kind of thing. All of your module tutors have advice and feedback hours, which you can use to discuss your ideas for your essays or anything that's come out of the modules that you're particularly excited by or enthused by. This is really your time to use in a way that you want. In the same way as Peter was talking about in regards to GSD, we have a student staff liaison committee, which is where students feed forward their ideas for how to improve the department, how to change the curriculum, any ideas that they've got to really kind of, we all take responsibility for evolving this community together. And again, shared with GSD, we have a dedicated employability and placement manager. Now, we think this is really important. We know that employability is really a key issue to many of you. And what we are absolutely determined is that every student gets the opportunity to develop their professional networks, to get a whole load of professional experience if they want to, before they enter the world of work, and that this shouldn't be dependent on who your parents know. So our employability and placement manager helps with this. She helps to organise internships. She helps you to articulate your professional and personal skills, to talk about how your academic studies prepare you for the world of work. And really, this kind of interdisciplinary problem-based learning really does prepare you well for the world of work. I could talk for a long time about that. I don't know if either Emily or Izzy have any other comments they want to make about community and support. Maybe Emily, if you've got anything else you want to add.
Yeah, I would say that the fact that the department is quite small actually really helps for everyone to feel a better sense of community and belonging. I feel like I know all 4 main tutors really well and can go to them with any issues that I have. And that does also help with the issue that I think some people who I know who study liberal arts at other universities have found, where they don't really know who to talk to when they have an issue, because everyone's kind of spread out across different departments. And in my year, we've got about, I think, 25 of us. And so because of the core modules, we all know each other really well. So I think that really helps. Yeah.
Thank you. Izzy, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add.
Yeah, I was going to say basically all the same things, and I think also there's so much group work, which means you do. So I think we have around 25 to 30 people, and I think there's you get to work with every single person. So I feel like I know everyone really well, and yeah, it's just so collaborative. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. And our model works, we know it does. Student feedback tells us that. So in the 2020 National Student Survey, 100% of our liberal arts students agreed that they felt part of a community of staff and student. We scored 100% in overall student satisfaction. And yeah, we can certainly kind of critique these kind of metrics, but what they do indicate something about is the fact that our students do feel deeply connected to the programme. They do see the value in our models of teaching and learning, and they do feel a strong sense of belonging in the department. And this is kind of what's indicated by some of the quotes on the slide. And that's certainly, I don't know, something that we take a lot of pride in and that matters a lot to us. So that's the end of the presentation. I'm sure that we can answer any questions that you've got in the Q&A afterwards. Thank you.